I'm going to cue the music here, so give me a second.
Welcome to the epicenter of sports and entertainment. This is The Rude Dog Show. Now, here's your host, Rudy Reyes.
Welcome to The Rude Dog Show. Happy Wednesday, everybody. If you're into that. Boy, we have a show for you lined up right now. It is absolutely fantastic. Cannot wait to dive right into this. And I want to let everybody know that today has kind of been a bag of mixed nuts. And if you follow me on social media, you know what I'm talking about. Go to my Facebook. You can find me on The Rude Dog Show. Find me on Facebook at Rudy Reyes. You can go to Twitter at Rude Dog Reyes there. Go to LinkedIn. You name it, you'll find me there. And if you check out my comments and posts, I don't do a whole lot on Facebook, probably as much as I probably should. However, I do a lot on Twitter. And I recognize that not everybody wants to follow people, and I get it, but today has just been an absolutely fantastic follow Wednesday today. And, of course, tomorrow being Thursday and closer to the weekend, as I'm sure you guys are all aware of. The NFL is in full swing for preseason games. We're going to see a lot of that this weekend, but that's not what we're talking about. Not today. Not today on the show. So I'm sorry to get your hopes up. I appreciate it. You checking in, Bernard, Corey, very good. Thank you for that compliment. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. And, Sherbrooke, Quebec in Canada, eh? Thanks for checking in. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. I am your humble host. You know, I look at Los Angeles and I think to myself, maybe there's some issues that could be resolved by the LA Lakers. It could be resolved by the Clippers. You could talk about the Rams, maybe the Chargers. But we're going to talk about the Lakers today, and here's why. A massive extension, probably one of the highest in NBA history, is LeBron James agreed on a 2-year deal, $97.1 million contract extension that will keep him with the Lakers franchise until 2024. And what's even more interesting about this is that James will be the highest earning player in NBA history with career earnings. And this is mind-blowing. Some people think he's not worth the money. He's a waste of money. Well, obviously the Lakers don't seem to think so, and he's already helped bring them a chip. In Los Angeles, his earnings will be $532 million. Now, we're not talking cap. In addition to that, of course, there's no cap yet on a number that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger as far as what that looks like from a salary standpoint in the NBA. James currently is owed $44.5 million for this year, and obviously last on his current contract. Now, his new deal would give him a player option for the 24-25 campaign where he'll be 40 years old at that point. And what's even more interesting is that there is no real salary cap. There's a luxury tax. If a certain team goes over a certain threshold, that's exactly what ends up happening, and they'll end up having to pay the piper and add additional monies to that. And I've never really been a fan of the luxury tax. I know it's necessary. I know it's vital. You have to keep teams in check. I understand that. I get it. I'm across the board with you. Thumbs up. I understand where you're coming from. People want caps. There's a cap on NFL players and what that means for the NFL franchise in whole and not in part. And I tend to agree there needs to be some type of cap. There's no cap in Major League Baseball either, which stands to reason why some of these numbers that you see guys like Juan Soto, who comes over from the Nationals, gets paid tons of money. We're not going to talk about the Padres. Don't even get me started on that. But I think more importantly, when you look at what Soto's making, it's absolutely absurd. It's a lot of money, a lot of bread, and I don't have enough butter for all that bread, but apparently San Diego does. So that's why they're continually paying some of these guys some exorbitant amount of monies in order to stay with their respective franchises. Now, what I like about this deal that he's getting is that by the time his son is a freshman in college, he has the opportunity to play on a team. Of course, LeBron James is, as much as he posts on social media, which predominantly isn't too much, and he'll piggyback off other people, and predominantly he won't say a whole lot and throw out original tweets all by himself. But he has stated in the past that he's going to play with Bronny regardless of where Bronny goes. Now, on one side of that, you can think to yourself, man, I get to play with my dad. That's going to be great. Okay, yes, it could very well be the most fantastic thing since sliced bread. We were talking about bread earlier. It was a different kind of bread. This is a bread that Bronny will have to contend with. And the words and the homage he's going to have to pay to his dad, knowing that his dad has paved the way for multiple teams to win championships in his lifetime. And what's even more dynamic outside of that scope of work that Bronny Jr. is the expectations and him having to escalate his game and be another LeBron James, be that next guy, be the next runner-up, the LeBron James' son versus being who he is. That's a lot of pressure for a freshman, a lot of pressure for someone who doesn't deserve have that kind of pressure on his shoulders to make it in the NBA. He should not have that pressure. He's too young. Give him a few years, let him live up to his own expectations, and allow for him to be that guy, to be that one sole individual, to make a name for himself in the National Basketball Association. With that being said, on the offset, it was interesting to hear from LeBron James to do whatever it takes for him in order to play with his son for at least 1 year. I like the concept. I get it. But again, too much pressure for a young freshman who is, trying to find his way, trying to get into the next level, and that's the NBA. Now, the 4-time NBA champ, 18-time All-Star, has basically eliminated any concerns as he's going back into Los Angeles to play for the Lakers at least till 2024, 2025. And he could basically be writing his own movie, his autobiography, when you're talking about his career. It's been illustrious up to this point. And I don't believe that even if he does turn 40 years old, as long as he's progressing, being productive, doing what he needs to do, and being that guy within the Lakers franchise or any NBA franchise for that matter, to stay there to make something out of absolutely nothing. And when I say that, I mean that there may not be the viable components to the team that Bronny Jr. is going to play on. And if LeBron James goes there, he could be an aged player at that point whenever Bronny decides to come out and play for the NBA, play in the NBA system. It's a different speed, different feel, different dynamic. And more importantly, this is more about what LeBron James should allow his son to do is experience the NBA for his first season and then let him get comfortable, let him get acclimated, and then join him and then be a part of his beginning NBA lineage. And, of course, that has to do with LeBron James setting the way, as I stated earlier. One thing about what the Lakers have done from a franchise standpoint is they really didn't do a whole lot in the offseason. Yeah, they acquired Darvin Ham, but they couldn't do much of anything else because their hands were tied with max contracts. And I don't like how that's set up. I'm not a fan of how that's set up. You paid Russell Westbrook guaranteed monies, Anthony Davis guaranteed monies. But in all fairness, LeBron James and Anthony Davis have essentially handcuffed this team along with the unhelpful play by Russell Westbrook on the floor to be able to get this Lakers team to where they need to be, where they have to be, where they should be. Because they had won a championship in 2020, lost in the first round in 2021, and then missed the entire postseason 2019 and 2022. That is not constructive. That's more like a roller coaster, and I believe that ownership and Jeannie Buss had decided to take this in a completely different direction in the sense of maybe it's a coach's problem. Maybe it's a coach issue. Maybe we need to get somebody else in here that's going to do a lot more. Maybe become more of a player coach than the predecessor. And now, I don't know if that's the case. I'm not quite sure how that works out. And thank you from checking in from OC. I appreciate it. Thank you. I think that when you look at the Lakers at 33-49 last year, not very constructive. Didn't quite play to the expectations everybody thought they did. There were some saying, what are the Lakers doing? They're going to acquire old people with their double ARP cards to be on the floor in order to play high-end, high-level NBA basketball to last, over 100 games. Well, that wasn't the case. LeBron James was hurt. Anthony Davis was hurt. And again, as I stated, Russell Westbrook turned into Russell Westbrick, a brick house. I'm sure he made a couple for his mom during last season. Sad to say. But I'm just going to call it like it is. I mean, the guy just did not play very good at all. There was no cohesion on that team. It looks like everybody's going in different directions. And they needed to do something different, and that's where the acquisition of Darvin Ham comes into play for this Los Angeles Lakers team. Now, when you look at LeBron James explicitly, he averaged 30-plus points a game, 8.2 rebounds, 6.2 assists, but the injuries, 56 games, no less, he was injured in. And the saddest part about all this is that, again, as I stated earlier, it takes more than one person like Russell Westbrook on the floor in order to make this whole thing work. Rotations, who's at the 5, who's at the 4. It was basically player by committee for the LA Lakers. And I think that moving forward this season, LeBron James has looked good. From the videos that I've seen him play in, I think the Lakers that have been practicing in El Segundo have certainly been able to play at a higher level for practice. Perhaps this is something that they're trying to accomplish in the locker room by creating that cohesion, creating the personalities, not to have anybody that's more dominant than another. So it really stands to reason why they went ahead and brought in Darvin Ham to replace who they thought could have been the problem to the entire situation, and that was Frank Vogel. And now that I'm looking at LeBron James in his last season, worth $44.5 million, as I stated earlier, and negotiating deals, I think Anthony Davis should be the one on the table getting operated on to find out and determine. Of course, no workout videos exist. I can't find anything on where he is, what he's doing. Is he rehabbing? Is it behind closed doors? Is he trying to keep all this secret? Well, I don't know. I haven't seen Anthony Davis do anything in the offseason to even give me the mirage, the illusion that he's going to get better. He's going to be better. He's going to be the guy that the Lakers actually need moving forward to be injury-free. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on Today's California, Today's Canada, live on Twitter, live on YouTube, live on Facebook. I am live in the metaverse. You name it, you can find me. Throw me a follow. I love talking sports on Twitter. It seems to be my thing. I seem to find a niche. And for all my followers, thank you for following. I appreciate it. Hopefully you're watching this show as well, as I stated, live on Twitter. So tune in, retweet, like, love, comment, quote it, whatever you got to do. Just get to it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Again, I'm your humble host, Rudy Reyes, on the Rude Dog Show. When I look at the Lakers, maybe they're not done. Maybe there's a saving grace, but this is a brutal schedule. And I say brutal in the sense of, yeah, they're traveling where they need to travel. They need to go where they need to go. But one thing the NBA is trying to accomplish is, as everybody knows, a load management scenario and what that actually looks like. Will the Lakers, amongst other teams in the NBA, find a way to minimize the load management to make that more manageable instead of worrying about management? And I can't really help but think all the back-to-backs over the years, which has significantly dropped as far as teams traveling, playing back-to-back nights, one in New York, one in Brooklyn, or maybe a whole East Coast trip, or an East Coast team making a West Coast trip, going to L.A., playing, once against the Clippers at Crypto Arena, another against the Lakers the following night. I think that the league in of itself is really trying to compartmentalize what the overall dynamics are of being able to say, you know what, we're going to put load management on more of a front for you than we are on the back burner, because we recognize that there's a lot of injuries, and that's probably one of the reasons why they made that decision to do just that. But speaking of Los Angeles, we're going to stay there for half a minute, only for the simple fact that there's one guy who's going to get his Lakers jersey retired in the rafters at Crypto.com Arena, and that is Pau Gasol. Of course, the lost member between the two, one of the more dominant centers, not the most dominant center, that would belong to Shaquille O'Neal. But that belongs to Pau Gasol during the Kobe Bryant era. Why? Because Pau Gasol played until 2014, and then he signed on with Chicago Bulls as a free agent. He earned 3 of his 6 All-Star games appearances with the Lakers franchise, and then he finally retired in his native country of España, or Spain as some people know it. He's going to be have his jersey hung right in and next to guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, James Worthy, Gail Goodrich, Jamal Wilkes. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of Laker greats. He's going to have his banner hung next to, which I think is a completely fantastic idea. Pau Gasol hopefully will be in attendance for this. I don't see why not. I don't see any reason. I wouldn't even miss this for the world either, to be quite honest with you. If somebody's going to retire me and put my jersey up in the rafters where fans and friends and family can go and look at this while they're watching a Lakers game, albeit I'm down with that. I am down with that. I will be more than happy to attend and check that out as well. So just in case you didn't know, the NBA also unveiled their 2022-2023 season this afternoon, and there are some doozies. There are some knuckle-breaking games going on right now, and of course the season will tip off on TNT as the 76ers host the reigning Eastern Conference champion Celtics that failed to get it done against the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors we'll talk about in just a minute. And, of course, they'll receive their championship rings right before hosting the Lakers, who just won their rings about, 2 years ago, almost to the date. And this is going to kick off. The whole season is going to kick off. I'm excited about it. I love the NBA, love watching the dunks, the do's, the don'ts, and all these teams that really trying to make something out of nothing and really putting together a strong system. A strong locker room, strong mentalities, being able to really take it to the hole when they need to and just slam that ball through the iron. I love that. I love the dynamics there in the NBA, and that's what they bring that no other sport does. And not even the NFL. But the NFL is a different animal altogether. So when I look at a competitive nature from that standpoint, both leagues are extremely competitive, and you've seen what happened today during the fight between the Carolina Panthers and I don't want to say the Chargers. I'm trying to remember who that was exactly that they had gotten in a fight with. But there were guys that were just thrown into the bleachers where people were just actually watching practices. So slammed down on the ground like this is WWE. This is, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But the NBA season starts out just like this. Thank you, Rodolfo. I appreciate it. Downtown Mexico. Thank you so much. I appreciate you tuning in. Always a faithful fan. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to favorite that because I love it when Rodolfo checks in, as well as everybody else. But with a name like Rodolfo, I got mistaken for that a lot growing up. The 76ers will travel to face the Celtics, followed by the Lakers, visiting the Warriors. And, of course, that's when they'll receive their rings. And then ESPN will have their first doubleheader of the season kicked off as the New York Knickerbockers travel onward to the home of the Memphis Grizzlies to take on John Morant and company, and then a knock-your-socks-off rematch in a Western Conference semifinal game between the Dallas Mavericks and Phoenix Suns in Phoenix. So, I mean, this is going to be fantastic. This is the way it should start. If there's a schedule that should start from where it ended and trickle on down to where it actually started, fantastic. I am all on board for this one. I cannot wait to see what this season holds. And, I mean, it gets better. It gets much, much better. So the Orlando Magic landed Paolo Banchero and will open their season in Detroit against the Pistons. And as he was being selected in 2022, 1 overall in the NBA draft. Of course, Cade Cunningham and Rudy Gobert leaving Utah, and finding himself with the Timberwolves, will make his debut against second overall pick Chet Holmgren and the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's a very good pickup by them. I watched the NBA draft. That looked very fun. It was pretty smooth, I must say. It was pretty smooth. New Orleans Pelicans will expect to have Zion Williamson. I don't know. Hopefully he won't be wearing shoes that will bust open on him while he's playing on the court. Thank you, Pushpa Sharma, and blessings to you as well. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. What's even more interesting is that you're going to have, and this is the supposed lineup, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, potentially could line up and be in the same exact lineup for the Brooklyn Nets because, again, as you know, earlier in the offseason, Kevin Durant wanted out. He didn't want to be in the system. He wanted to go somewhere else, which was obviously putting pressure on Kyrie Irving to make his decision as to whether or not he's going to go anywhere or not. Well, he has 1 year left on his contract. He's planning on honoring that. So unless some unforeseeable blockbuster moves happen I don't expect to see Kyrie Irving go anywhere, nor do I see Kevin Durant going anywhere as well. And maybe Ben Simmons won't take a mental day and be able to check in, literally, physically, and mentally, to play together for the very first time in the same uniform. Then Thursday, we'll see a TNT doubleheaders, and Milwaukee Bucks will face the Sixers, followed by an LA showdown between Clippers and Lakers. I love the showdown. I love the Lakers. They're playing. Of course, that's going to be the Clippers unis dressed in the Clippers outfit in the whole or inside arena, the walls and everything. And I can't wait to get their own home to play in, because this is a house that the Lakers built, not the Clippers. But that's another story for another day. But they're going to square off at Crypto.com Arena. And we'll see Eastern Conference slugfest between the Celtics and Miami Heat, followed by the Nuggets traveling to San Francisco to take on the Warriors. We'll always love that matchup. I'm more concerned to see whether or not Banchero and the Magic can create their own magic, hosting the Celtics on that following Saturday. And, of course, Jamal Murray is expected to return to the court again, playing with the Thunder. And I'm just really concerned about Jamal Murray and whether or not he's athletically ready. If he has the ability to stay healthy, I honestly don't know. I would like to see that actually come to pass, because Jamal Murray is one explosive player. I've watched him for years, and one thing I do know about him is that he's a true competitor. And the last thing I want to see is him being X'd out of this Denver Nuggets team, who essentially only have Nikola Jokic, or the Joker, as some people know him, as being the only two superstars. And I really want to see Jamal Murray get it done. And, of course, when I say that, of course, I love Christmas. Anybody who knows me knows that. But I think all 5 games on Christmas will be enough basketball for me for one day, as 76ers take on the Knicks, Lakers, Mavericks, Bucks, Celtics, Grizzlies, Warriors, Suns, and Nuggets. And, of course, the Saturday and Sunday showcases, which will also air on ABC. And, I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. There's some fantastic games. I cannot wait to watch this. This is going to be wonderful. The NBA season is right on the horizon. But more importantly, this is just going to see some up-and-coming talent against some very familiar foes, familiar players. But more importantly, this is about, again, going back to what I was stating earlier, that the NBA is really trying to curtail long-distance traveling to help with the load management for these players who seem to just continue traveling across country and put a lot of wear and tear unnecessarily on their bodies. Donovan Mitchell, I don't know that situation will actually be resolved. They had reopened talks, the Utah Jazz, with other teams. Don't know what that looks like. It could come down to being sent all the way to the East Coast to play for the New York Knickerbockers. Unsure how that will work. But they'll be playing in Utah. They'll be traveling to play against the Jazz November 15th. So we're going to see what that looks like and whether or not that trade will occur before that game happens. If it does, that'll be a very easy homecoming for Donovan Mitchell. I think he fits really well in Utah. I don't know why he would even bother leaving. Maybe it's a trade clause in his contract, perhaps a player option. Or maybe they just want to get rid of the guy altogether. I'm not quite sure what the Jazz is thinking there. I mean, they did let Rudy Gobert go as well to the Minnesota Timberwolves, so I'm not sure what the logic was. It could be a rebuild. If that is the case in Utah, they're going to have to make some more acquisitions or bring up some guys from the G League. That remains to be seen. But we're going to see 3 top draft picks between Banchero, Holmgren, and Jabari Smith on the court at the same time within the first, 3 or 4 weeks of the upcoming season. So to give you some stats on what that load management actually looks like, there's going to be a no-travel road games from 53 to 88 this season. So they're going to keep that relatively short, 55 of which came from playing the same team in the same city, 2 games in a row. So it could be a back-to-back situation where you see Major League Baseball playing 3 games in a triple threat one day after the other, which I think would make more sense. I mean, they see each other during the regular season anyway, whether they're traveling at home or they're traveling away to face that team. It's just going to happen. And, of course, 33 of those games playing 2 straight in New York and or Los Angeles. And don't forget, back-to-back games have dropped this season from almost 14 to about, just barely over 13 and since 2014 and 2015 seasons, respectfully. So 6 total dropped games in regards to back-to-backs. This is going to be interesting. I don't know how they're going to play this out. I don't know how it's going to work in its entirety, but I do know that load management seems to be a big deal and getting bigger in the NBA, just like the salaries keep getting bigger and bigger. So I don't know what's going to hit the threshold first. Is it going to be the NBA salary contracts? Is there a luxury tax associated with it? Will they get nailed with that? Or are you going to see even more games dropped off in a back-to-back capacity? Nobody knows. I don't know, but I know this. Great to have you on. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Rudy Reyes on The Rude Dog Show. Again, you'll find the show on TheRudeDogShow.com. You can find it on Twitter, at Rude Dog Reyes. You can go to Facebook, find me on LinkedIn. And I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys. I will not see you tomorrow, but I'll see you on Friday. I'll have an all brand new show. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun. And with that being said, I'm out. Have a great night, everyone.